This is the Post Shift Podcast, a raw look at the hospitality industry. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, Post Shifters. Welcome to another episode of the Post Shift Podcast with Shawn Soole. Obviously, I am that person, and today is number 4 of our series from the Lisbon Bar Show, which I went to a month or so ago now. I've been in Singapore probably for about 4 weeks now, which is exciting and been awesome and everything. I hope you've been keeping up with that with the post-shift shots, which is basically what I'll be doing for the post-shift shots for the next foreseeable future. So at the end of the day, this is one of the last ones. So this is Ian Burrell, the self-proclaimed, not self-proclaimed, but like labeled rum ambassador for all rums in the world, which is a great title to have and a very due one. He has been following and helping with rum distilleries and that sort of thing for, decades. And I've always been a huge fan of him. We've always crossed paths at Tales of the Cocktail and that sort of thing. You'll hear a funny story about the first time we met in this podcast, but I'm completely and utterly grateful that I get a chance to sit down with a bunch of people who I revere as heroes. It's the one selfish thing I can say that comes out of the podcast and doing the post shift. Sitting down with people that I wouldn't have a chance to, and so I'm very grateful for that. I hope you enjoy this episode, guys. I'll see you next week. Bye. So I don't really have any, I don't standardized questions.
Cool, no problem.
The cool thing is doing this podcast, I get to sit and hang out with my heroes.
Excellent. I don't actually have standardized answers.
I get to hang out with my heroes and ask questions about, just everything in life general.
Oh, wow. Why am I on there?
Because, I followed you for years.
Oh, shit. Oh, sorry. Apologize.
I think the first time we met face-to-face was London Bar Show, when it was up in, where was it? 2010, 2011, 2012.
Okay, cool.
And you said my tiki drink. You said my tiki drink wasn't sweet enough. Because I made one, and it's supposed to have rhubarb syrup in it.
Right, yeah.
And what they could get me was this off-the-shelf rhubarb syrup, and it wasn't sweet enough.
It wasn't sweet enough.
And it was later in the day, and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna screw this up completely. And it was you, Salvatore Calabrese, and someone else.
Oh no.
And you just were like, your tiki drink's not sweet enough. I'm like, it's a nouveau tiki drink. And you're like, that still doesn't count.
Oh no, that's quite funny. Probably count now today.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in this
so why don't you introduce yourself for the viewers at home or the listeners at home?
So my name is Ian Burrell, and I'm the unofficially the global ambassador for rum.
How did you get into that?
I actually gave myself the title. I called myself, you're going to be the global ambassador for rum, and no one's going to dispute it. Well, they probably will do unless you actually back it up.
Yeah.
But no, I was made the first ambassador rum for the UK in around 96, 97.
Was that by a brand or by...
Yeah, it was by a brand. It's the only brand I've ever worked for. That was Appleton. Yep. Appleton rum. Family's from Jamaica, so it was a nice connection.
Nice fit.
Yeah, nice fit. And that's one of the reasons why they wanted me to work with them, because I was a bartender, I was Jamaican, so I could then talk about their rum from a Jamaican perspective and a bartender perspective as well.
What year was that?
It was about 97.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a while back. And so when I was doing that, I started doing events for them and then doing presentations about their rums. And then I was asked to actually help launch Appleton Rum in Australia and New Zealand. This is about 6 years later, using the same type of enthusiasm, liveliness, but also talking as a bartender to other bartenders. While I was out in New Zealand and Australia, I realized I would do Australia as well. I realized I knew loads about Appleton and nothing about other rums.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided I wanted to learn. The only place to learn was to actually go there. And there was the internet was there, but there wasn't much being put online.
2002, barely.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. There was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, MySpace was just about to be.
Yeah, you're talking to the kids these days, and they're like, oh yeah, I can just go Google rum styles. I'm like, oh no, but you had to go look for books. And books weren't written about rum styles.
That's right. And even then, you have to find those books to find out where they were.
And there was no Amazon. You couldn't just go type in rum book on Amazon and get a rum book.
Exactly.
It wasn't going to happen that way.
All the kids now today, they have it easy compared to what we had to go through just 15, 20 years ago. So I did travel around the Caribbean learning about rums. And when I came back to England, when I started doing presentations, instead of talking about rum from an Appleton perspective, I started talking about rum from a rum perspective, the different types of rums that are out there. As such, and that's when I started getting the name or being dubbed as the Rum Man. So it just evolved from there. A few years later, after traveling around and doing more events, I decided I wanted to create my own event because there was no rum festival.
Yeah.
So I created a rum festival, the first international rum festival in 2007 in London.
Wow.
Which has gone on to inspire all the rum festivals you see around the world.
Yeah.
Have all evolved and been inspired by the London one.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to be involved either as a guest or as a consultant for some of these other brands, other rum festivals around the world. So I've been quite proud, silently proud of my little contribution to the spirits industry as I created Rum
I wouldn't
Fest.
say it's a little contribution. So you were strictly a bartender before you got into all this?
Strictly a bartender before that. Officially, I was supposed to be. Sorry, I'm just eating an English breakfast here. Officially, I was supposed to be a bartender for about 6 months while I was taking time off from school to go to drama school after my A-levels. Loved it so much that 6 years became 20 odd years. So 6 months became 20 odd years. I didn't want to give it up. I enjoyed it so much working behind the bar, meeting people. It helped with my confidence as well. I mean, I had confidence anyway, but meeting brand new people and actually clicking with them straight away by just being a bartender, making them a drinks or creating something for them. So yeah, I loved it, and I don't regret that the path that I've actually gone down when I made a decision to stay.
I'm just going to flip your microphone here because I feel like I'm going to get a lot of scrabble. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. So I don't regret the path I went down, being a bartender, working with spirits, meeting people, because it's also led on to lots of other stuff as well.
So when you started when you decided to do your own rum festival,
yes,
did you self-fund that pretty much?
With all my savings. Yeah, it's my savings. I lost money after the first year, but let me rephrase that. I didn't lose money. I invested.
Yeah.
Invested into a brand. So it was awakening. It was an awakening to a lot of rum companies because first of all they were like, "What is a rum festival?" And after that they were like, "Wow, we really like this. We definitely want to be back next year. And we want to go bigger because we want to make sure we outdo the next person."
And if you want to go bigger, you're going to spend more money.
Exactly. So that's how that started, and that's how it evolved. But yeah, self-funding, didn't get any loans. Took all my savings. I was saving up for a deposit for a house.
Wow.
I took a chance. It was the only. I don't gamble, and that was my biggest gamble of my life.
Well, because I think it's funny is like either sometimes when people get to a stage like you have in your career, I either get two things. Like I'm always curious what they did beforehand, and like Davin de Kokomo from Canadian Whiskey.
Yeah.
You know what he did before he was a Canadian whiskey guy?
Nope.
He was an outreach worker, traveled the world.
Wow. Okay.
Doing outreach.
That's amazing.
But then you go, okay, well, you're quietly spoken, you're as nice as sin. Like, obviously, you had to be something like completely uninvolved.
That's right.
To be, but then on the flip side is like, and then I like to chat to, like, because I think the biggest thing with you was like I was curious about the first, like how you got into it because you self-funded your passion.
Yeah.
And we're not talking like 5 years ago. We're talking like almost 20 years ago. You self-funded your own passion.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think kids these days, well, the internet is the kids these days. They get into a stage of like they want X, Y, Z.
Yeah. And they want it
but
tomorrow.
they want it 18 months from. Well, 18 months on being on the nice side on that one. But like I call it the MTV mentality. Everybody wants what they see on MTV, and then it's like, but Jay-Z ate shit for like 20 years before he was Jay-Z.
That's it. I saw a cartoon recently which was amazing. I forgot to photocopy it, copy and paste it. What it was, we saw these three athletes standing on the podium, first, second, and third. And everyone's looking at them from this way, and from behind you see a wall that they're standing on. And it had things like, each brick said things like blood, sweat, time, passion, patience, everything they needed to get to that spot. But you don't see all that. You just see the end result. It's pretty much like, for example, as an independent ambassador there to be hired. Someone has an idea, or they have a rum, or they want me to come and consult for them. And they'll say to you, listen, we've seen what you do, we understand, you can help our brand, and then you say, okay, no problem, I can do this is what it's going to cost. And they'll say, oh, wow, we thought you were just going to like give us some advice and some tips and things like that. And I'll say, well, the only reason why you came to me and the reason why I've got here, because I put like 20, 25 years of work to get to this position. So you're not paying for the advice I give you now, you're paying for 25 years of experience as such. And I think some people forget that when they not only me, but when they hire a professional or hire an expert in
well, what
like
we
that.
do is very intangible.
Yes.
Like the bartending industry, like I deal with it on a daily basis with consulting. It's like, it's intangible. You say it's going to cost as much, and they're like, but I can't see the results. I'm like, of course you can. That venue and that venue and that venue and that event and that event.
That's right. Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but I still can't see the tangible ROI is
they
a
don't
hard
want
thing to
to see
do.
the tangible,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
well that's also a big one too. So what's your focus these days? Apart from like traveling the world and just talking about rum everywhere.
Well, my focus these days now is actually to just educate as much people as I can on the category of rum, on the benefits of rum. If it's a bar or a bar program or a restaurant, on the different styles of rums, if you're already into rums, to help you discover new things about rums, to work with local governments and local rum companies. When I say local, I mean local in certain areas, especially in the developing areas, where rum has always been seen as just a means just to escape.
Yeah.
But now it can be seen as a means for money and for prosperity and for development and for the future of a country or a nation or just a local market.
Because rum for a lot of Caribbean countries is literally the reason why they have a GDP.
That's right.
Like
it is. It's an important part of that.
Without rum, they literally do not exist anymore.
It's an important part of that, and this is why I am so passionate when it comes to talking about, for example, Jamaica rum. For example, when I see a bottle of Jamaica rum on a shelf in, say, China or Australia or in Canada, there is money going back to that country that is helping for infrastructure. Because the money that the workers that work in distilleries or that are directly involved with the company, they're spending that money to help their family, help their kids. And so they need the sale of those rums to actually work. So when I see people bash rums or bash brands, they normally do that from a place of ignorance because they've never been to that country. They've never seen the workers inside the distillery inside there. They don't see that while they're sitting on a computer in a developing country, typing away, oh, this rum is crap, blah, 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 and these companies, blah, blah. They've never been to actually see.
I see that on Facebook a lot these days.
Exactly, we see that all the time.
The sugar content and how much caramelized sugar gets added.
Exactly. Sometimes it just gets so tiresome.
There's a lot of white noise out there when it comes to rum.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it comes out of you said it comes out of ignorance because like the categories of rum are so specific per country, and then even within the country, each region has a specific style of rum.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I try and do. Educate people on those things. Some people don't care. They just want to drink something that tastes really good. Others will take the time to find out. Okay, if you're going to take the time to find out, then be open-minded about what's out there and say, okay, I appreciate and understand why you do it that way, but that's not for me.
Yeah.
Don't tell someone, oh, don't drink that because it's blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because one of my famous lines I say to everyone is, don't tell me what rum to drink and I want to have sleep with your wife. And if people should adopt that policy, don't tell me. If I'm drinking grain, if you overproof at 63% alcohol, unaged, that tastes like rocket fuel to some people, or it's fire water to others. Yeah. I grew up drinking that. That's part of my culture.
Cut it with cola and you're good to go.
Oh man, don't squeeze a lime, tall glass. Oh goodness.
Well, then there's some people that don't like dunder. And
exactly.
It's like, okay, well, doesn't mean you don't.
It's like the heavy. Like Jamaicans don't drink heavy, high ester rums.
Yeah.
They don't. That's done by the Europeans, the Germans especially. So when I see people talking about Jamaica rum, oh, it needs more funk, it needs more this. I'm like, well, tell that to a Jamaican. The people where it's from, the people that are making the money, hopefully making the money from that brand or what, they don't drink that. Yeah. They laugh when they see people drinking that stuff.
So what do you see for the rum industry in the next couple of years? I've heard a lot of, the reason why I asked that is because I've heard a lot of call for more transparency and that sort of
transparency is always going to be called for in every business. Whether it's food, drinks, whatever. People want to know what goes inside the product, what they put inside them. They're becoming more conscious of sugar, additives, and that's right across the board, not only with rum. So what I do see going forward, I will see more companies basically saying, using part of the we are as pure and holier than thou as part of their marketing. Because they're not allowed to say, like Europe's basically saying in their new legislation, you're not allowed to put the word sugar-free or no sugar added onto your rum bottle, which I just find ridiculous. But it's the EU and the part of their laws. That may change in the future because things do evolve. So people will find ways of actually saying, we are a particular style of rum, we are this. And you'll find your niche of consumers that will like your product, especially if they enjoy the taste, they'll keep coming back. So I see that happening. And the EU is going to make that happen quite quickly because the laws are changing in the EU. Secondly, I'm seeing a lot more independent bottlers. Not everyone can afford a distillery.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a great thing. And the reason why it's a great thing is because that's where rum came from.
Yeah.
No one, unless you're super rich, you could not afford to go out to a distillery in the Caribbean, because that was the epicenter. Bring rum from the Caribbean on a ship, bring it over to London, Bristol, or the New Englands, and then bottle it yourself. You're an independent bottler if you do that. Bottle it yourself, and then sell it to your friends and make loads of money. Sometimes how sometimes you have to go to companies like EA Shear, who've been doing it for over 200 years, somewhere closer to home, who can bring their costs down because they're buying so much. And you go to them and say, listen, you know what? I want a little bit of Batey Barak from that Far East and a little bit of Jamaican rum, and I'm going to sell that in London, or I'm going to sell that as this, as my own product.
So when you say independent bottlers, you're talking about independent blenders as well?
Independent blenders?
Like more leaning towards like the single vintage, single cask sort of country thing?
No, it's more, when I say I mean more independent blenders, the single cask and the single vintage things, again, that will continue to come because everyone's looking for that marketing edge. You're looking to get your little tiny niche. You're not doing large quantities, but it's enough to help your brand. So if you're a successful brand and all of a sudden you release a limited edition 5,000 rum bottle, that 5,000 bottles is not going to make or break a company. What is there is to establish your name out there to certain parts of the market.
So like the single cask stuff is like single malt whiskies. A small portion of
very
the blended market.
Portion, very small portion, because most people, as you know, when it comes to whiskies, they're drinking blended whiskies. They're drinking more Johnny Walker than
when the single
any
malt
single
nerds
malt.
get on their high horse, you're like,
of course.
You're at like 5% of the 10%.
Exactly. So I like to. We'll see a lot of that will satisfy a lot of us geeky rum drinkers. I put myself in both categories. Yes, I can be a real geeky rum drinker, but hey, give me a rum and coke any day. And I'm very, very happy. Rum, and I'm pushing, again, rum highballs is the thing for me, for the general consumer, because I want more people drinking rum. I hear a lot of times when I hear people say, I don't like rums, and then you ask them what your favorite drink is, they say mojito or a daiquiri or Mai Tai or pina colada, and they're like, all right, okay, you don't like.
Please tell me you call them out when they say that.
I do tell them, but you are drinking rum. It's just you're not drinking rum the way you expect it to be.
Well, I think it's the same thing when people have Scotch whiskey for the first time. People are like, I don't like Scotch. I'm like, well, did you have some dick at a party give you Ardbeg Ugadel, and that was your first taste of Scotch whiskey?
Exactly.
It was like, is that what you first said? So I had like XYZ rum, and it's like I didn't like it. I'm like, well, there's a lot of rum out there that you can try.
There's rum out there, So if they drink spirits, I always say there's a rum out there for you. If you don't like spirits neat, there's a cocktail out there with rum inside there for you. So as long as you're drinking rum, fine, I'll find a way for you to get there. And that's going back to the question you asked, how am I, or what am I doing within the rum industry? It is it's trying to create ways or give people ideas of how to enjoy and drink rums. So independent bottlers, Clarity, we're going to see a lot of new rums coming from new regions or old regions that are now basically saying, you know what, we've got all this sugarcane growing, why don't we just make some really good quality rum, because the market is showing that there's growth inside there. So Asia, some rums coming out of there. The Pacific, South Pacific, a lot of sugarcane growing there, so you're going to see a lot more rums coming there. Fiji is going to start stepping up. Countries like Mauritius, Reunion Island are now looking inward at themselves and saying, we have all this rum here, it's been drunk locally, let's see if we can get a little bit of the foreign market. And this is where I've come in, where I've gone into places like Mauritius and Madeira, and I've worked with the local authorities, as in the government, to help all the rum companies work together as a unit and start getting them into fairs and events around the world to promote the category. So it's funny when I do say to people, I created my name, the rum ambassador, the global rum ambassador. Some people look at me and say, yeah, you are, that's why we want you. So Madeira, the government of Madeira, the government of Mauritius, and the Reunion Island and Guadeloupe.
That's fantastic.
Jamaica Tourist Board and Jampro just hired me to help them launch Jamaica Rum Fest at the beginning of the year. So I'm actually working with countries and governments initiatives on helping develop their rum programs.
So what do you think about Australian rum?
Well, here's the thing, and this is a true story. So a few years ago, I was at a bar show down in Sydney, and again, I was invited as the international guest, and it was the first time that Bundy had ever exhibited at a bar show. And because I said, Ian Burrell's coming down, you're going to have a rum area, Bundy's going to be there. And the whole idea was I would talk about like 15, 20 minutes on just rum as a category. And then each of the brands will come and do their marketing spiel about their brands. So you had Appleton there, you had Mount Gay, you had Havana, Bacardi, and you had Bundy. So when it came to the Bundy guys, like 50 bartenders sitting there, the Bundy guys had all the samples, and they were just like, yeah, this is what we do. We've been making rum since 1888 and blah, blah, blah. And the polar bears, we don't have polar bears in Australia, but it keeps you warm. That's why we got polar bear on there. Anyway, any questions? First bartender goes, yeah, mate, why does Bundy taste like shit? Poor rep, because the rep was a rep. He wasn't a bartender. He didn't really know the industry. Came down to Sydney and felt the full wrath of Sydney bartenders.
Wow.
And then he looked at me and says, Ian, you're the host, you're the global ambassador for rum. What are you going to defend us? What are you going to say? I'm like, oh man, what can I do? So I went up there and said, listen guys, all right. I take it now you guys don't really like Bundy. No, mate, tastes like my... I'm like, all right. But look at it this way. Imagine Queensland was a little tiny island in the Caribbean, like Jamaica. And it had a rum that 99.9% of people that ever drank it would say, oh my God, this tastes like shit. Well, that's what Ray and Nephew's like in Jamaica. And I'm sure you guys know what Ray and Nephew is. They're like, hell yeah, we know Jamaica. I'm like, so don't say the rum tastes like shit. Say it tastes like shit to me.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, I laugh
because it might be great somewhere else.
Well, the RTD culture in Australia is huge. So, like, as a 14, 15-year-old kid, you know you're hitting Bundaberg rum and Coke in a can.
That was one of, Bundy and Coke on draft was one of my holy grails.
Awesome, isn't it?
I never got to try it. I've always wanted to try it. I was hunting down. I went up to the distillery, Bundy Distillery, and I said, guys, I need to find Bundy and Coke on draft just so I can say I've done it.
People go RTD culture in Australia. I'm like, no. We do like Johnny Walker and ginger on tap. Off a gun in a jug, and you sit at the pub with a jug and you pour it out to all your
I met the guy who came up with the concept. Used to work for Diageo, and he said he was tired of going to a pub, drinking rum and Coke while his mates were drinking lager, and he was getting wasted. He was getting wasted. Because he was doing like 3 or 4 strong rums and cokes, and they were just doing lagers at a time. So he says, I need to find a way to do a pint of rum and coke that's around the same strength, about 5% alcohol volume, and that's when he came up with the concept. And he sold it to the bosses at Bundy, and they said, great idea, let's run with it.
I think the one thing Bundy has is they've realised the market they've had in Australia, and they've come out with other expressions. They're definitely leaning towards more like geeky-ism
and this
ones.
And this leads back to the question of where other things I see going. Companies, big companies themselves will look at themselves and say, okay, how can we appeal to that geeky audience or another market? We have our core market, but how can we appeal to that small sector that maybe think our products are not good enough for them? So while I was there at Bundy, they were just launching and just doing tastings of their Master Distillers collection. So I tried some of those, and I said, 2 problems here. I said, first of all, you've still got Bundy on the label. Which will lead to the second problem, is that this rum is not bad, but you're going to have a problem selling this to the guys down south. Only because of the stigma that Bundy has. So you can either go one or 2 ways. You can either call it something completely different, or you're going to have to hire or get bartenders that have a reputation that can influence
to back it,
to come and back it by doing blind tastings. Don't even tell them what it is. Do blind tastings and do that type of stuff.
I think that's the key. It's like, I know Ryan Lane from the Grisham. He backed it pretty hard.
Oh, brilliant.
But like we went through a movement in Brisbane. We actually 86 rum and Coke.
Oh wow!
Like 86 Bundaberg rum.
Wow!
Completely.
Okay.
And 86 Bundaberg rum, because it's like giving sugar and alcohol to 5-year-old children. Of course, you get fights.
Yeah, of course.
But so what's next for you?
So next for me is helping to develop and create rum festivals pretty much around the world. Everyone wants to do a local one. So this is Alberto just gave us a book here in case you like wondering why I'm laughing.
It's okay.
To help develop rum festivals around the world. I've just helped launch the new Miami rum event called the Miami Rum Congress, which we did last February, and it went amazing. It's all going to be about education, an understanding of the category of rum worldwide, and then we party in the evening times. rum is about education, but rum's about partying.
Rum in Miami.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So we're going to look to get a little bit bigger next year. So that's a project, and a few other little NDA projects I can't really talk about at the moment that you'll hear about, and you're like, oh my god, and you won't even know I'm involved inside there. Nice. Like, oh my god. So there's a few exciting projects in the rum industry that's about to happen. That's going to drop a few this year that I'm involved with or I've consulted on, and then of course Rumfest in London and London Rum Week. It's to help basically help that develop, help that grow, really try and get the London Rum Week up and running. It's been going now this will be our second year of it being an official event, and we want it to evolve. We want to not only evolve as an event, but to help to evolve Londoners and anyone that travels to London for that week to understand the rum category and the rum experience.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sitting down, man. I know you're busy.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Here in sunny Lisbon. Are we in Lisbon?
It's so good in Lisbon.
Thanks, Post Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're listening, whatever platform you're on, give me a good rating, subscribe, listen along. I'm going to keep going. I really enjoy sitting down with people and learning where they're from, what they did, and how they got to where they were. So if you love it, give me a good 5 stars. If you don't, give me 1 and I'll try harder.